We have a really full panel today, fantastic guests. We have folks from communities in different parts of Ontario and from Buffalo, New York, folks who engage with young people in a variety of different ways using different strategies and approaches, but who all really can speak to the power of community music programs and music education for young people. And we're really excited. We're going to start by giving everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves, to speak to the work that they do and how they engage young people. And then we're going to have a facilitated conversation. We have some questions that we want to ask of our panelists so they can share their expertise and their knowledge. And then we'll open it up to questions from our attendees. And you will notice that there is a questions panel. So we encourage you throughout to ask your questions. And there will be time towards the end of today's session for us to ask those of our panelists. So we'll get started. We're going to start with Allison and Vanessa, who are with us from the Regent Park School of Music in Toronto, and they're going to take us through a few slides, and they're going to introduce themselves and their work. So Allison and Vanessa, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us, Katie. My name's Allison Curcio. I am the Director of Programs at the Regent Park School of Music, and I'm joined by my colleague Vanessa Chase, who is the Program Manager for our Jane and Finch location. Hi, Vanessa, there she is. So, and also joined by a graduate from our program, Tomas Muir, and so we'll hear from her as well. Really exciting. Tomas is graduated from our school last year, and she's now in her first year of studies at the University of Waterloo. So I'll give a quick overview of Regent Park School of Music and what we do, and then Vanessa's going to dig a little deeper into our Jane and Finch location and what programming looks like there. So Katie, you can cue the next slide. Regent Park School of Music is a community music school, and we're here to give kids and youth a high quality, affordable music education from which they gain creative, personal, and social skills that will serve them for a lifetime. And so this year we are set to reach about 1,000 young people ages 3 to 18, and we do that out of our central hub in Regent Park and also out of our Jane and Finch location. So for those of you outside of Toronto, those are 2 neighborhoods in different parts of the city. And we also partner with others across the city to reach a number of youth from different communities. Our lessons are highly subsidized. So this is the big piece in terms of addressing financial accessibility for young people and access to music lessons. So we have our families pay $50 for a year of weekly group music lessons, or $100 for a year of weekly private music lessons. And that includes everything. So that is their full cost. It includes an instrument rental. It includes materials, music, performance opportunities, exams, and festival entries if students are pursuing those types of opportunities as well. And our programming spans, I believe Katie will share after the fact, our program guide and annual report as part of the follow-up materials, but spans a really wide variety of musical genres and instruments. So everything from piano, violin, guitar, to harps, DJing, steel pan, and across quite a few genres as well. Also at the core of what we do is really focus on the student experience. And so our curriculum reflects that, and I'll touch on that in the next slide, but we are really acknowledging the creative, personal, and social development of our students as being part of their experience with us. So it's about so much more than learning musical technique on an instrument. There's a lot more that happens. And the sense of community is really important to us too. Our graduates tell us year after year how RPSM has been a second family to them. That's something that we hear a lot, and that's an important part of the work that we do. And our students also get a lot of opportunities outside of their weekly lessons. So it's a much richer experience than simply coming once a week for a lesson. That's a huge part of it. There are also performance opportunities, special guests, a lot of artists who really get behind what we're doing and collaborate with our students in all kinds of different ways. And there are leadership and volunteer opportunities for our students. Tomas is a great example of someone who's taken advantage of that through her experience. So let's move to the next slide, Katie, if we can. We'll talk just a little bit about our model and how we're set up. So we are primarily an after-school and weekend program. We run lessons, like I said, in Regent Park. We have a central hub, and we have 7 rooms of various sizes. We're running lessons there 7 days a week. Jane and Finch is a little bit different. Vanessa will touch on that. We are partnering with schools for spaces, so it's a bit of a different setup, but still after school and weekend music lessons. Our students start in a small group class, so that might be 4 or 5 kids. They're learning an instrument, for example, violin, and they also are encouraged to join a larger ensemble, which could be something like our choir. And then as they progress, our senior students have an opportunity to take a private lesson. So they progress from that small group into one-on-one instruction, and they still keep that ensemble. So they're getting a great opportunity to work closely with a teacher in a one-on-one setting. And then they also have the opportunity to make music with other students, and there's so much learning that comes out of that setting as well. And there are lots of different trajectories available. So I mentioned the breadth of programming. We have students who might start in a piano lesson and then dabble in harp, and then join our choir, and then end up in music technology. So there's a lot of fluidity there for students to really explore what they're interested in. And finally, for me, I wanted to touch on our curriculum. So our curriculum clearly outlines that we have social and musical priorities for our students, and we recognize that we play a role in both of those areas, and both are equally important. So social goals are things like students' inspiration and engagement, for our students to have a voice in what they're learning, to develop self-esteem. And then the musical goals are things like rhythm, melody and harmony, tone and texture, proficiency on their instrument. And so that is the framework for our curriculum. We really acknowledge that we are a lot more than a music school. Music is the method that we're using, but there's so much more going on here on the social side as well. So I'll pass it over to Vanessa now to talk a little bit more in depth about our programming in our Jane and Finch location.
Sorry, Vanessa. Vanessa and Karen are sharing a webcam, everyone, in case you're wondering. But we get, oh, I think we can hear you now.
I got it. Thanks.
Oh, great.
Thanks, everybody. Sharing with Karen, we have offices around the corner from each other, actually. So yeah, just quickly, I wanted to give an overview of what we're doing in our Jane and Finch location. It's a bit different than the Regent Park location, which obviously we're named after. So the Jane and Finch location is not brand new. We started over 10 years ago in the neighborhood, and we've had this really great dramatic growth over the last 4 years. So 10 years ago, we were mostly offering smaller programs, so group piano at a couple of schools, group guitar at a couple of other schools, and now we've really grown. So we're offering community-wide programs that are available to anybody that can attend those programs that's eligible. So we're offering, you know, piano, voice, guitar, choir, some more traditional music learning opportunities. And then we're also offering a whole suite of unique and non-traditional music learning opportunities, such as our keyboards and beats class, which was developed by our teachers here, a music technology program using iPads and computers. Tuning forks come into that a lot. We have a rock band class where they're learning all the different instruments of our rock band and then learning to put it together. So that's a really cool one. And then we have a class called Songs and Stories, which is sort of a creative movement program. So we try and offer a breadth of programming that's going to be great for students at different points of entry, student with different interests. So we think this is a really great way for them. They get a good diverse opportunity to join our program and try different instruments and try different music styles. So we're now offering in our Jane and Finch location 66 individual classes a week to about 215 students through the school year. And then we also have 5 weeks of summer camp. Can you switch to the next slide, please, Katie? And then quickly, I think it's really important to acknowledge some of the challenges that we're facing. Given that Jane and Finch is an underserved community in many ways, finding space that really works for us has been a little bit difficult. We do use school spaces, which are mostly fine, but they have their own gatekeepers, they have their own systems. As I'm sure many of you know, storage, if you're teaching instrumental music, can be a real challenge. We're very lucky we have a school partner that works with us and lets us store, you know, a set of steel pans and 4 drum kits and a whole host of other instruments. But you know, if we continue to grow, that space might not be working for us anymore. The community of Jane and Finch is a really big community, so the distance to get from one place to another, accessibility in that way is a real challenge for us. So even if we kind of find a centralized spot, it doesn't always work for everybody. So we're still contending with that and trying to make it a real community space so people feel comfortable and can make it out to that space. And then the last thing is reaching older students. As I'm sure some of you know, working with young people, working with older students in high school is our oldest age bracket for us. We only go up to end of high school. So it's a little bit difficult retaining and recruiting students at that point. So I think we're doing some really great things in our Jane and Finch location. We have some innovative programs. So we have an intergenerational steel pan class, and this is open for all ages. Some are our students that take other programs with us, and some are adults who just want to come and learn the steel pan. And that was based on a research project that was done. And I think Karen Burke might mention that later. And then we have some really great opportunities to try and connect our music to different underserved groups. So we have a Celebrating Women recital that we do Black history repertoire and recitals, and you know, celebrating diversity in lots of different ways, encouraging our staff to do that as well. We have a really dedicated group of students and staff, so that it really helps us do what we can do in the neighborhood and really offer awesome and very quality programs and community oriented. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention was we have really strong community partnerships. So we sometimes perform at schools that we're partnered with, attend community events, connect with other agencies. It works really well for us. So we're really grateful to be where we're at, and we hope our programs continue to grow in the Jane and Finch neighborhood. And that's the end for me. And I guess Tomas, the graduate of our school, is going to speak now.
Yes, Tomas, we'll throw it over to you. Welcome. Oh, just a second. We can't hear you quite yet.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. Okay, so yeah, I was an RPS student. I joined RPSM for percussion ensemble in 2013, and about a year after, I transitioned into private lessons for percussion. So I remained in private percussion lessons up until my graduation from high school earlier this year, which is typically when RPSM students graduate from the program as well. And I came from a musical background. So my father was an audio engineer and had my sisters and I taking lessons from when we were really young. But I can truly say that there really is no experience quite like RPSM. I was able to grow bounds as both a musician as a student and a leader through all of the opportunities that the school provided for me. So after a couple of years, I was able to become a counselor for the RPSM summer camp. And there I was able to develop my interpersonal skills immensely, leading groups of children through their weekly activities and towards their goal of an end of the week performance for their parents. I think more than anything, that experience showed me how music can really change children's lives. I was really able to see them get really engaged and change as students themselves, just as young as they were. And for the short amount of time they were there, being able to see the way that music helped them grow was really enlightening for me. And it remains a special moment in my heart, just all of them being excited for their end of the week performances. That was really cool. In my last year of high school, I was hired as a hallway monitor on Saturday at one of our locations. And there I was able to I don't know, play with the children, make sure that they weren't being too loud or anything. And again, like seeing children get really excited over music and seeing them progress throughout the year as they were taking their lessons was really cool, because you could see them get more and more excited about the performances that they were doing, and them showing me all of the music that they had just learned, and all of the the new skills, like being able to read some of the notes was really cool, because they got really into that. And I think it's so amazing to see like students grow from just music themselves. Yeah, so like as a student and as a leader, that was really great. But then RPSM did even more and like provided all of us students with like different opportunities to go out and beyond, above and beyond, and perform and work with people who we've never really would have gotten the chance with if it was not for RPSM. Like just I think it was either last year. I think it was last year that we're able to work with Frank Dukes, who was like who's a Grammy like award-winning like producer, and we were able to like work with him in studio, and one of the tracks that we ended up producing from our time with Frank Dukes ended up on a Taylor Swift album, which is really cool, and that was like a flurry of excitement at the school. So yeah, there's just so many different roles I got to like partake in as during my time as a student. So I'm really grateful for that. Anything else?
Thank you all so much for sharing. We're gonna have Karen introduce her work, and I know some of you from Regent Park know Karen. So and thank you, Karen, for sharing your webcam with Vanessa. Yeah,
that was her brilliance.
It's great. Great. We can share space with each other in multiple ways today. So Karen, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about how you connect to this topic.
Right, so you can hear me fine. I'm sort of interested in this in a holistic way. I am an educator, but I would call myself a musician first, and have been involved teaching music for a very, very long time. I got involved in formal music education back in the early 90s, teaching middle school, and then later on teaching high school music. And eventually, after about 12 years at that high school, I was hired here at York. And the interesting thing about York University is that it has, I think, one of the largest, if not the largest, fine arts programs at a university in Canada. And it offers so many different types of music that I shouldn't have been surprised when they asked me if I would also, as well as teaching music courses, develop gospel music curriculum, because I have been, as long as my formal education as a piano major and all of that, I have always been involved with gospel music and teaching gospel music. And so I developed 2 courses here in 2005, and one is a gospel choir course, and the other is a history of gospel music lecture series. And they've been hugely popular and well supported by the department and by the university. And through that position, I've been able also to give support for others who are trying to do this at the post-secondary level, and connecting with people around the world who are teaching as clinicians. It's a fairly new academic subject, but I find that this is one of the interesting ways to connect with youth. And I will often go into schools that will ask me to come in and I don't know, revive their music students with some exciting singing. I often also bring students in to the university. Maybe we go to the next slide. Yeah, so yeah, I think pictures are better than words. So you can just see, hopefully from here, the vibrancy of gospel music. And what I find is when I get young people in the room with gospel music, it's always an explosion. And my first times going in were in the Niagara region. I'm thinking 25 years ago. And I would go in and be working with 500 and 600 students at the same time. And administrators would come down just to see what was happening and would stay for like half an hour with their mouths open because they couldn't get over the energy. And so this marriage of finding music that was maybe non-traditional at the outset, but actually related to so much of the music that we teach and that we hear. all of the music that we hear on the radio, mainstream, has the same roots as gospel music. And so students will be hearing the similar chord progressions, similar rhythmic patterns, similar ways of harmonizing of some of their great heroes, like you know, Beyonce or Fantasia or Jennifer Hudson, all of which had roots in gospel music. So it's been exciting to make those connections, not only here at the university, but also in other schools. One of the things too that I've done, and I think the next slide has a link to it, hopefully, is establishing the gospel choir, and I've also been the director of the Toronto Mass Choir for 31 years now. And we also do a lot of programming that includes opportunities for youth. And so one of the things that we do is Power Up. It happens every February, and we offer scholarships for students to come to experience, you know, teaching, learning, accessing gospel music, and lots of different musicianship growing opportunities. And we also offer an annual youth scholarship every year, and it's purposely not tied to grades. There's lots of scholarships out there for students who do academics, but not always students who are interested in their communities. So we're always looking for students who are full-time, post-secondary, but are heavily engaged and can provide things to support that, that they're heavily engaged in community service. That's important to us, and we want to always encourage students to be involved in their communities. The next slide, I think, includes a link to, well, it doesn't, but anyway, that's okay. I'll just say we have this, I have a program that I do called City Youth Gospel Project, and I bring students, teachers, and their classes to York University, and we have a full day of learning. And usually that's with maybe 300 students at a time, 9:30 till 2:30, and we'll be doing that again in April. But that's also another way that that I find to interact with students, and also interact with students here at York University. I think it's really important that community music organizations take up the gap that's often appears, and even more so in our public education system, where arts are put on the back burner, and you know, some things are left. And so we have an opportunity, those of us who are committed to community music, to be able to take up that charge and make sure that our students are receiving the opportunity to access music of all genre. And so this is one of the reasons why I was interested in the opportunity that came my way in 2016. I was approached by the dean here at the University of the School of Arts, Media, Performance and Design, of which music is a part, and asked to be the inaugural fellow for the new partnership that was being created between RPSM, York University, and the Carswell Family Foundation. And even though at the time I was very busy and was thinking, I don't want to get involved with another thing, I love the motive of Dr. Carswell in sharing with youth, particularly in the James Fitch area. And I also really agreed with the mandate of RPSM, and had gotten to know Richard Barcella, who's the executive director, quite well. And so I took on this position, and it was supposed to be over last year. And then I decided, you know what, I'm really digging this thing, so I'm going to stick with it for a little while. And so we extended it, and my term is up in 2020. But in the meantime, I've been working with my research associate, Karen Cyrus, to make sure that the information that is being gleaned from our researchers is information that will be helpful to RPSM first, and then also to the other community arts organizations, particularly in the Jane and Finch community. And I'm very excited to say there's been some great research, to which Vanessa alluded to before, that has already proven to be beneficial to youth. And also, we very excited to announce a new online presence for this partnership within York Space. And York Space is a place that is a repository for research in general from York University, and we have our own space now under the Helen Carswell Chair in Community Engaged Research in the Arts. And there we keep the information about new calls, documents from all of our sessions that we do, the opportunities we have to share with dissemination, lunch bag, reports, yearly reports, everything that you would like to know about this exciting research partnership is there at York Space, and that can be seen through the YorkU, what do you call it? Website. There we go. But I'm very excited that we have an online presence, because, you know, if it's not online, you don't exist. And so that was a huge accomplishment for us. And I look forward to continuing in this last year as we continue to solidify the partnership we have with York University and RPSM. And it's a good thing that we did, because RPSM would be not in the next office and we couldn't share this webcam. So there you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Karen. We're going to have Corey come online and tell us a little bit about the work that he does. I think the Zamar Music Academy is based in Brampton. So we'd love to hear more about how you connect to this topic, Corey. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Corey Butler. Are you hearing me?
We can
Everybody's
hear you.
good? Okay, fantastic. Well, my name is Corey Butler, and I am the artistic director and founder of the Zamar Music Productions, which is a multifaceted organization that actually our areas of interest are performance, education, and production. And how I connect to this piece is through the educational division, which is called Zamar Music Academy. And at Zamar Music Academy, we offer, affordable music mentorship, particularly mentorship and education programs in a wide variety of instruments, including voice, piano, drums, bass, to all ages, not just children. We have toddler music programs. We offer music lessons to kids from ages 4 to 18, and also adults. And we tried our best to remove the financial obstacles. So that often presents itself within our communities by providing financial assistance to some of our students who really can't afford it, but want to have access to music mentorship. Our mission is to provide students with the musical skills they need for self-expression within a safe and mutually inclusive environment, and to develop the musical ability of each of our students through quality music education, through it's a concept that I've developed called the A Better Way to Learn. And through this A Better Way to Learn concept or method, instructors will engage and teach our students how to play and understand their instruments through a combination of practice, ear training, and musical theory. One of the reasons why this was important to me is because traditionally our students, including myself, we've learned to music, particularly just to read and write it. As soon as, if you're brand spanking new to music, as soon as, your parents decide, oh, you know what, I should send you to music lessons, the first thing that my teacher did was she put a book in front of me. But again, through the A Better Way to Learn method, we actually approach music as a language. And there are 4 very important parts of the language component, if you will, and that's reading and writing, which as soon as you start learning to play music, they take care of that for you. They teach you how to read music, and they teach you how to, write the notes and all that kind of stuff. But the listening and speaking part, the oral part, and being able to function within a musical environment without sheet music was a part that I thought was missing in our the educational system, if you will, or the traditional educational system. And so we have included also a wide variety of genres, particularly because of my years of experience working with within the gospel music community and also with Karen. I was the musical director for the Toronto Mass Choir for about 11 years and still very much involved with them. But the passion for music education, and particularly gospel music education, is also a very strong one for me. And so even at our school, we've been very strategic in our staff and training our staff to be able to teach a by rote form of music learning and music styles, including gospel music. Again, very new subject area to Canada within our educational system, but I'm very much interested in ensuring that gospel music becomes sort of a norm, not just within world music cultures, but we can authentically teach gospel music, and by doing that, people can come to our school. Particularly people of color and African Canadian descent, we really want to promote the education, because a lot of the people in our churches and people who would learn how to play gospel music, it's innate in them. They sat beside the musicians in their churches and they just picked it up. And so you find that they're able to really function within a musical environment without sheet music very, very well, and be very authentic. But if you put a piece of paper in front of them to say, hey, play this, they won't necessarily be able to do that. And particularly when the time comes for them to be able to teach what they know of gospel music, those things are few and far between within our community. And this is one of the things that Zamar Music Academy would really like to see shift. Another thing for us too is we teach a wide variety of kids from different ethnicities, different, and also a lot of them come with different physical restrictions and mental restrictions and those types of things. And we really, our staff is very, very caring, and we really are adamant and passionate about the education of these such individuals. I'll give you an example. One of our students, one of my students actually, his mom had been having some, grave difficulty with him in terms of his behavior and substance abuse. And he had gone through many different programs, CAMH, Center for Addiction and Mental Health, and weeks of that programming, and all kinds. She's tried everything. He's been in and out of our penal systems, and just in trouble with the law all the time. And but he loves music, and I encouraged her to send him to Zamar Music Academy. And for 2 months I worked with him, and 90% of those classes he would come to the class high. His eyes were bloodshot red, and but the power of music, I do believe that it heals, and most of our classes were actually spent taking long walks and me encouraging him and letting him know that there is another option, and tapping into his love for music. And so for a small portion of our class, we would start playing and creating music together. And for 2 months we did that, and I'm happy to say that he is now substance abuse free, after 2 months, and wanting to become a musical producer, and has now moved to New Brunswick with his family, and contributing to his community in a very, very, very real and profound way. And so these are the types of stories that are happening at Zamar Music Academy. The other thing too is, again, we are located in Brampton, and I have a passion for the Brampton community. There are a lot of music programs in the Toronto area, but not a lot that are accessible to kids in the Greater Toronto area. And Brampton being one of the largest cities, I thought that have such a wide variety of class. I thought we really would need something like this in that community. And so we've actually been talking a lot with the RPSM, because that model is absolutely amazing, and sort of it resonates with us, even in the in our model and what we do in Brampton. And so we are sort of in talks at the moment to see how we can potentially work together to ensure that again, music education and mentorship is accessible to youth at risk, and also to remove that financial barrier that often presents itself, of students who really would like to be a part and really would like the music mentorship and music lessons, but just aren't able to because of financial restrictions. Yeah, that's Zamar Music Academy in a nutshell. We've got a fantastic staff of about 11 teachers, 7 rooms. We're very, very new. We're not even 2 years old yet, but we've experienced, quite a bit of success as it relates to our student populace. We're at about 130 students and still growing. And we really just want an opportunity to get these kids into positive music mentorship programs.
Thank you so much, Corey. It's really important. I think one of the reasons we wanted to draw so many folks together for today's conversation is to really share the work that folks are doing in different communities and the impacts that that's having. So thank you so much. Andrew, over to you from OrKidstra in Ottawa.
Hi, everybody. I just want to start by saying it was so wonderful to hear about, I mean, of course about Zamar, but specifically about kind of the whole team at Regent Park School of Music. I mean, there's so many striking similarities between our 2 programs that hearing you speak about Regent Park felt like you were speaking about OrKidstra. So I'd like to just start for anyone who's not familiar with OrKidstra. We are an Ottawa-based social development program that aims to empower kids and build community through the study of music. We're in our 12th year now. We started in 2007. Starting with 27 students, and now we serve more than 800 students from over 60 cultural and linguistic backgrounds. And I'll talk about how that student split, or those students are split in just a moment. We run on the philosophy that every child should have the opportunity to learn music, and so we try to do our best to eliminate as many barriers as possible for our students. So in doing that, 96% of our students participate completely free of charge, and that small percentage of people who do pay do it voluntarily. Each student in our instrumental program is given an instrument to use as long as they're a student with us, and we manage and repair and upgrade the instrument as the student grows with us through our program. And our enrollment is focused in the immediate neighborhoods of our 2 hubs, which are in Centertown and in Vanier, which are 2 very kind of high needs, underserved communities within Ottawa. And so with that, we try to kind of build up the community in which we're located, and also try to eliminate transportation as a barrier as much as possible. Our main focus as an organization is on an after-school music program. So in our 2 hubs in Centertown and in Vanier, we run 1 to 3 days of programming, after-school programming a week, and anyone in our instrumental program has 1 day of either small group or private lessons, depending on how long they've been with us in the program, and then 1 day of large ensemble. And we focus on orchestral instruments, wind instruments, and jazz instruments for those. And we also offer choir and theory classes. We also have a very important 3rd day of our programming for our oldest students, which we call our youth group. And so the students who have been with us the longest get the opportunity to come in a 3rd day in the week, participate in an extra day of music making, and then also just have a chance to hang out. We offer kind of 2 hours a week of a youth group activity. Myself and the rest of the programming team kind of plan a different thing every week, and so we have special guests, we have crafts, we have movie nights and stuff like that, and it kind of provides a real opportunity for the students to bond and kind of create lasting friendships. The rest of our students we reach through our in-school program. And so we have partnered with a few local school boards in the area to provide an in-school program. And we send a few of our teachers to run music programming for grades 1 and 2. And at the same time, our teachers are then training the teachers in those classrooms how to run effective music programming in their classrooms. So then they can kind of take that knowledge and pass it on to the rest of the students if our teachers are not invited back the next year, or the school board does not invite us back in the next year. That program also aims to feed into our after-school program, where we see the most impact with our students. In terms of outcomes of the program, we're very proud of the fact that 100% of the students who have graduated OrKidstra have gone on to post-secondary education, and very few of them have been in music. I think 1 or 2 have went to study music, but we have some students who have gone on to study neuroscience and biology and biochemistry, and a number of other kind of areas. We're very adamant that we don't try to create professional musicians, but we try to create virtuosic people. We also offer many areas for community engagement and mentorship, and so our students get the opportunities to play outreach events. We've done some very neat outreach events kind of with kind of local politicians and kind of other local community organizations. And in terms of some kind of really neat opportunities that our students have gotten, they have gotten the opportunity to perform the Junos Award celebration in 2016, I believe. We performed on Parliament Hill for Canada 150 as kind of a support group for, I'm forgetting the name of the artist right now. That's not good. But we performed on Parliament Hill for Canada 150. And next week we will be on stage for We Day. And so just to show kind of some of the great things that our students get the opportunities to do. And even when the students don't get those wonderful opportunities, we see some just tremendous personal development in each and every one of our students as they kind of just even the change between kind of when they start in September and kind of go through the year, and between when they start their instrument in September and our end of year concert in June, just this wonderful change of personality for the better, almost kind of across the board. My position personally at OrKidstra, I am the Artistic and Social Impact Coordinator. And so one half of my position looks at the artistic side of programming, in which I manage the team of teaching artists and oversee a lot of the pedagogy in the classrooms. And then I also, the Social Impact Coordinator looks at evaluation. And so I run an annual survey with our students, teachers, and parents to try to measure the social impact of our program, and to try to see if we are actually achieving what we aim to achieve in our class. And it is with that half that I want to take just one moment to highlight some of the work that OrKidstra has done with YouthREX, just to show kind of what an incredible program they are. So in addition to hosting webinars like this, and we talked about, or Katie kind of highlighted some of the things that YouthREX does at the beginning of this webinar. But OrKidstra was actually part of a group that did one of their comprehensive evaluation overhauls. And so starting in the summer of 2018, I worked very closely with someone from YouthREX who took us through looking at our short and long-term outcomes. We revamped our logic model completely. We reworked all of our evaluation methods, and then YouthREX led us through delivering those evaluation methods and analyzing those evaluation methods. And so it's just a, they had a wonderful help, or they helped in a big way. So, I mean, thank you, YouthREX, for hosting this, and thank you, Katie, for inviting me to the panel.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you for sharing a little bit about how we partnered. I think that's great, and we also are doing similar work with Regent Park School of Music. And now I want to turn it over to Yuki, who's joining us from Buffalo, to share some of the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Yuki Numata Resnick, and I'm the Executive Director of Buffalo Stringworks. So we're located in Buffalo, New York, not too far from Toronto and Ottawa. And I'm actually Canadian myself, originally from Vancouver, and found myself living here about 6 years ago. And so Buffalo Stringworks is very, very similar to, I think, what we've been hearing about from all three other programs. And we're an after-school music program, and currently we're serving 74 students in a very intensive way. So every student comes 3 days a week for a total of 6 hours of music lessons each week. And the demographic we're primarily serving in Buffalo is actually the refugee and immigrant community here. And for me, being a relative newcomer to the city, I had no idea that Buffalo was a place where refugees were resettled. And but of course, as I began to understand the weather here and the relatively affordable cost of living, it became very clear why people would come here. And so our two largest groups of resettled refugees, the largest group is from the Congo, and the second is from Burma. And we do have refugees from Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan, Eritrea, Somalia as well. And so our demographic at Buffalo Stringworks is representative of all of these countries. Over the last 6 years, we've served students from every single country that I just mentioned. And at the moment, our largest group of students is from Burma and the many ethnic regions within it. And so very similar to the other programs, yes, we are a music program. Yes, we want our students to be wonderful musicians and to grow to love and appreciate music. But much more than that, we are very interested in the social impact of this kind of team-based music study. And we're inspired by the Venezuelan El Sistema model, which is over 40 years old, and the motto for that is music for social change, and that's absolutely what we're looking for at Buffalo Stringworks. We often tell our students, you practice so you sound better, but also so your team sounds better. So trying to really help our students understand that they matter. Even a 5-year-old in a beginning violin class, like, you matter. When you come to class, we notice. When you don't come, there's a big hole in your team. So we're really trying to push forward this idea of the whole versus the individual, the importance that every individual plays within our Buffalo Stringworks community, but also then hopefully the idea is that then they'll transfer that to their school community, to their family community, to the city community. That our students will have this kind of sense of pride and also responsibility as they go out into the world and become adults. Our mission is to foster vibrant, inclusive communities through the transformative power of music. So, of course, our immediate community focus is our Buffalo Stringworks students. And then, just 1 degree further out are our parents. And so over the last 6 years, we've been looking for ways to include our parents in the direction of the organization. What kinds of roles can we offer for our parents to play? Like, how can they really play a part in shaping our future and where BSW goes? So for us, a big part of where parents become part of this conversation is as interpreters and translators. Most of our families, speak many other languages and are more comfortable in other languages. So for those parents who are able to contribute as interpreters, they are absolutely our link and our bridge into the refugee community. They've become our ambassadors. We used to do recruitment through schools, but we've learned that actually our parents are the best ambassadors for our program. Our parents are constantly posting, videos on Facebook of their children playing, of not only at class or in our concerts, but at home. And that's what we love to see, that our kids are now playing their instruments at home with their uncle who might play the guitar. And we have a video of an uncle, shouting out chord changes, and our kids are, playing all the notes within those chords. I mean, those aren't things that we teach in our class. Like, we teach them how to play our instruments and how to play the music that we're working on. But I love to see that now this is being, transformed and being taken into the home, that they're wanting to play in their churches, and they're looking for ways that music can bridge their communities without us being the proxy. And that's what we love so much about what music can do, and the doors that it can open, and the ways, the communication that becomes opened up as a result of being able to share music. So other ways that we include our parents is that we have a community dinner every semester. Our teachers serve our parents and students, and we're providing a dinner for everyone. So all of us, it's usually 150 to 200 people gather in the basement of our building, and we share a meal together. We also have started doing family interviews at the beginning of every school year. It's just a really wonderful way for not only us to share, why we love music so much, exactly the topic of this webinar, what kind of change do we hope to see? Do we want to help inspire in your child through music, and what positive effects can that have on them socially, on them academically, and try to explain why we're asking you to commit to our program for 6 hours a week, but also a way for parents to tell us, what do they need from us? What do they want for their children? What are their hopes? And how can Buffalo Stringworks play a role in that? Our similar, again, to the other programs, our program is essentially free to all of our students. And every student is invited to contribute $1 per class if they're able, but if not, all of our families are able to do that. And if they're not, it is not a barrier to their enrollment in our program. All students contribute a $10 deposit for their instrument, and they're given an instrument to take home for the year. And then that $10 is returned to each family when the instrument is returned to us at the end of the year. And the reason why we do that is really to help to teach the idea of stewardship and responsibility for your belongings, and to really value the things that are being given to you, and to really take care of them. And I can confidently say that so far we have not had any broken instruments, and actually we've had one and I broke it. So at Buffalo Stringworks, we are a string program, as our name might imply. We teach violin, viola, cello, and bass. And, we're in our 6th year of programming. And over the last 6 years, we've really grown. We started as a 2-hour per week program. We're now a 6-hour per week program. We originally had 17 students enrolled. We're now at 74. And, I think as we've grown, all of our students from their 2nd year on, they participate in OrKidstra, and they have small group lessons. And then everybody is involved in Practice Club. And Practice Club is something new for us that we started last year. But I bring it up because I think it's, for me at least, Practice Club is probably my favorite part of our program. And it's an opportunity for 10 to 15 students to be in one room together. And it's exactly what it sounds like. They practice together, but they don't have to be all doing the same thing. There is a teacher in the room, but that teacher is not dictating what you practice. So it's very much student directed. It's, really trying to prop up this idea of student agency, encouraging our students to think about, I have a concert coming up in a couple of weeks. What would make sense for me to be working on today? Or to be able to self-evaluate and think, I struggled with something in class earlier today, so I'm going to work on this. Or to look across the room and think, oh, my friend over there, I know that he's also playing this piece. So we're going to work on this together. And then also a way for older students and more advanced students to start mentoring younger students. So like we really try to leave this as free and as open as possible. And I always say that the best practice club is controlled chaos. So again, you know, within Practice Club, that's essentially a microcosm of what we're trying to encourage our students to do outside of our doors, to really be able to self-evaluate, to think critically, to become strategic problem solvers, and to really take responsibility for their own learning and to not wait for us as teachers. And I'll say that, you know, for us as teachers, it's been a big shift. And, you know, many of us were taught in a much more traditional sort of top-down approach and very hierarchical, you know, very much, I'm the teacher, you're the student, you listen, I tell you what to do, why, when, and how to do it. So, you know, over the last few years, we've been offering much more professional development opportunities for our teachers to really start to learn more about this community building reason for playing music. It's not just about, you know, playing in tune and having a great bow hold, but how can we foster those social impact ideas within the classroom? And because we serve such a unique population, and none of us as teachers are refugees, some of us certainly are immigrants or first generation Americans or North Americans, but you know, none of us have gone through the refugee experience. And so as a result, cultural humility training is certainly a big part of what we do at Buffalo Stringworks. And again, in this idea of fostering community. And so, you know, finally, you know, with this idea of community building, you know, we've talked a little bit about how we do it with our students, with our teachers, with our families. And then with Buffalo at large, you know, we're always looking for opportunities for partnership and collaboration. And I think one place where we've really put emphasis in this is in offering a number of volunteer teaching assistant positions. So because we do all of our work in group setting, we have a number of assistants who help within the class and are able to address kind of one-on-one problems like in a classroom while there's a lead teacher really leading the group class. And this was something that was very important to me because when I started Buffalo Stringworks, I was a professor at UB, at the University at Buffalo in music. My students there all wanted to become educators, but didn't have an opportunity to get any sort of work experience. So they didn't know how to teach. And so Buffalo Stringworks has become a training ground for future educators. And my dream has been that we are able to train our aspiring educators to become really wonderful teachers and pedagogues, and to not only promote our assistants to paid positions within Buffalo Stringworks, but also to inspire them to go on and create similar programs in other cities wherever they end up. And as our program grows, we now have a select number of students who've been with us for long enough and who have become advanced enough that they're also becoming now volunteer assistants in some of the younger classrooms. And I really hope to see that they'll also one day begin to ascend to the teaching roles. And you know, that was something that many of our parents said to us as their hopes and dreams for their children, that they wanted their children to be able to take what they've learned with us at Buffalo Stringworks and to be able to share that. Some of them wanted their children to become BSW teachers, and many of our parents have dreams of their children going back to their countries of origin, going back to their villages in Burma, and being able to share music and teach music where they originally came from. So that's kind of a fast forward version of what Buffalo Stringworks is all about, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be able to take the time to hear from each of you, to hear about the programs that you offer, the populations with whom you work, the ways in which you address accessibility and inclusivity, and the ways that you've seen music really transform the young people with whom you're working. I want to invite all of our panelists to come online. I apologize that I myself will not be able to be on webcam. We have so many folks participating. You'll just have to hear my voice, but I want to give space for everyone else to come online and join us. And we'll have some time to kind of talk a little bit more about some of what was shared. And you'll see that Vanessa and Karen are sharing a webcam, which is great. So we have everybody online. Feel free to jump in. I think something that everyone sort of talked about in different ways. Andrew mentioned that the changes that you see in young people through their engagement in music programming. Tomas talked about growth. Corey, you talked about healing. I'm wondering if you want to speak a little bit more to specifically the ways in which music education can facilitate social and emotional learning in the young people with whom you work, or in yourselves as practitioners. We'd love to hear more about that piece, like why music education, specifically with respect to social and emotional learning. Who would like to start us off?
I can jump in on that. In that's something kind of really the strong underlying backbone of the OrKidstra program. Is there's such a, I mean, the skill, we all know this as panelists here, but the skills that you learn in learning music are so much more, and then we've talked about this, so much more than the technical facility of playing the instrument. What we focus on mostly in our classes, really before the instrument, is how to behave as a band, how to listen to everybody else in the class, how to respect your teachers, how to respect your classmates. You know, we really encourage strong practice habits, and so looking at hard work and dedication, and how that, you know, how through hard work and dedication you can really see change in your behaviors, in what you can do. And especially in the early stages of music, there's such rapid growth when the students dedicate themselves, that it's very exciting for them, and it's very kind of intrinsically motivating. And so, you know, with 20 minutes of practice at home a day, you know, the trombone player can hit that upper partial, and they can see that they couldn't do this at the start. They put in some work, and then they have a very tangible result at the end. And so for our youth and for our students, it's very empowering for them.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in and just echo what Andrew was just talking about. And you know, for me personally, I'm a professional violinist, and I've come to this nonprofit work, you know, a little bit later as a new career. And I remember I was speaking with another performer turned administrator, and I said to her, I said, you know, did you go back to school? Did you, you know, get a new degree? Did you go to conferences? And she said, you know, she's like, honestly, all of the things that we learn to do as musicians and as performers in the practice room really set us up to do this kind of work. Because I think becoming a musician, you know, working on a piece of music, that's a long-term goal. That's not something that we can do in 5 minutes. You can't do it tomorrow. And I think with all of us being so, you know, greatly impacted by technology, with the immediacy of how everything is right at our fingertips, and with our students being very much impacted by that, the idea of doing something so analog as to play an acoustic instrument, you know, that it'll take you years before you can play something really beautifully, like the way that your teachers might sound. You know, that really helped me think about how I can apply the skills that I've learned learning a concerto, to running an organization, to writing a grant, to, you know, balancing the books. And also this kind of desire to continue to learn, the idea that nothing is ever perfect, and there's always room for more education and more learning, and to not be afraid of that, and to not look at that as a negative and as a deficiency, but to look at it as so much potential and possibility. And for me personally, I think music has really helped me with that, and has given me the confidence to tackle a completely new job.
I think there's also something to be said for having a creative outlet, and what that can do just personally, regardless of what level you take it to, and whether you're songwriting or whether you're recording something or writing song, you know, making music with your friends, starting a band at home, like all of those doors sort of open up once you have that entry into music. And you know, I think our students take that in so many different ways and carry that with them even beyond graduation in a lot of different ways, whether they're playing in an ensemble at their university, or they're writing music, or they're coming back and volunteering, or like there's so much that's open to it. But I think that having that for a lifetime, having that creative outlet is just emotionally so rich.
Absolutely. The social piece for us is extremely important. Through music mentorship, our students also gain, creative empowerment, social skills, and confidence. And one of the ways that we do that is definitely by having these group classes, but not only in our school, but even outside. I remember we were having a rehearsal with one of my student slash teacher mentees. He came so prepared. He had all the charts written down, and he charted out every song. And we were doing, a gospel music show. And in rehearsal, I just took all of his charts and said, you know what, I'm going to keep these because I want the social aspect of, listening. What is your bass player doing? What am I doing on the piano? What is your guitar player doing? Let's have musical conversations so that your head isn't necessarily buried in a chart, and we can all kind of, create and make music together. That was what it called for. And so music definitely allows you to be able to develop that side as well in terms of the social piece. And that is very, very important.
Yeah, one thing I'll also add is being part of a community. So encouraging our students to participate in ensembles or in group classes, it really builds a connection between the students, between them and a positive adult in their life, usually, someone who they can really connect with and relate to. And if you're feeling a sense of isolation, you're coming together to make music together. So we really try and encourage the students to be involved with the ensembles because of that, because we see the intrinsic value in that, not just as a musician or someone trying to make beautiful music, but as a community member, giving back and contributing, as you mentioned before when you were introducing Buffalo String Works, Yuki.
I think the only thing I would say is that in our schools, there is an increasing emphasis on STEM, and I've heard it said that you can learn the skill set, but music and the arts gives you something to say. And so I think all of the programs have different ways of delivering the music experience, but I think the bigger picture is also that our students need it. People need it. Our young people need an opportunity to express the things that are inside of them. And I would say today more than ever.
Yeah, I would also agree with everything you guys just said. As a camp counselor, watching children work in ensembles, I think is really cool because you can see them start to develop a sort of socio-emotional intelligence as they learn how important it is to respect other space and learn how others express themselves and give them that their chance to express themselves and give them their own time. They learn a lot of self-regulation when it comes to that because they learn, yes, it's not my time, it's their time to shine. It's my time to take the lead. It's my time to play my part. It's pretty cool to see them develop those skills. They start to respect and collaborate way more as the camp progresses.
Tomas, I wanted to build on something you were sharing earlier about leadership, and I wonder if you want to start. I wondered if we could speak to a little bit about how music education and community music programs really facilitate and foster mentorship opportunities for young people, and how that plays out in the work that you all do. And Tomas, do you want to start with your experience?
Yeah, sure, of course. So yeah, I was a camp counselor for at least a year, a couple of different camps for RPSM, and so through that I was able to lead groups of younger children and able to start to teach them music. That's something I've never done before, and it was a completely different experience than any other camp or leadership opportunity that I had the chance to take a part in. being able to show kids music is a completely different skill set that you need to like learn to develop. Like teaching them to respond to notes and like how different children are able to learn and their different styles of learning is really something interesting to learn. And then you also start to see them start to teach each other, because through those opportunities, they're like, well, I know this, I can show my friend how to play this, and I can show them what I know, and since I'm friends with them, they'll be able to respond to me better, like, and they start to take the lead really easily, which I think was pretty interesting, because some of the quieter kids ended up becoming some of the best leaders by the end of the camps, which is it's really wondrous.
Does anyone else want to add to their experience of how mentorship works in the different programs? I think Yuki, you mentioned that when you were speaking about Buffalo StringWorks.
Yeah, for us, for students to become mentors, that's very new for us, because it takes a little time to build up the skills, and to also have students who are mature enough to take on those kinds of responsibilities. But this year we're seeing it for the first time, that we have two young women who are 13 years old and starting to volunteer in our beginning violin class. And then, another way that mentorship has been part of our work is also through our volunteer teaching assistant. So just a really great way to involve high school or college age musicians who are playing at a particular level and who are really interested in giving back to their community. And I think what makes me really pleased to hear is always that people will say to us like, wow, I've lived in Buffalo in the suburbs for my whole life, and I had no idea that the west side of Buffalo had this vibrant community. And or they might have said, it wasn't a safe place to go, or I was afraid to go there, and now because of Buffalo StringWorks, it feels like a second home. So just a way for our volunteers to become more involved, and as paid teachers, and we're mentoring those volunteers to become teachers down the road.
Yeah, I think the mentorship happens naturally to an extent just by building a community, but we definitely have put some effort also into providing those opportunities deliberately. So the camp counselor positions that Tomas has described, that's one example. We also work with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Toronto, and they are really experts in mentorship, so they've been a great support to us. We have a dozen or more of our high school students this year formally mentoring in our classrooms with support from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Toronto. And I think that's another really important piece, is that the training and the skill development on that side, like we're experts in teaching music, and there's a whole other set in terms of mentorship and setting young people up for success. So we're trying to build on that side of things, as well as just what happens naturally when you start to get people together and build relationships. Yeah, so there are, I think, different levels at which you can formalize it, and different outcomes from that.
Mm-hmm. If I could jump in on that, just to build on what Allison was saying, is kind of again, mentorship is one of the key factors that as to why OrKidstra is very successful for our students, and it kind of happens at a bunch of different levels. Kind of at the biggest level, some of our teachers are recent OrKidstra graduates, and so they kind of come through the program, they graduate the program, they're still in Ottawa, and they might be kind of pursuing their post-secondary education, but they still come in and they help, and then it becomes a paid opportunity for them. But it also becomes an opportunity for the students within the organization to then kind of to see what can happen, and kind of to see what kind of person the program can turn them into, or the study of music can turn them into. But kind of on a more structural, formal level, we very carefully schedule our classes to try to build in some mentorship within the classes. So for example, we'll have 2 levels of our concert band class, and we build in like a half hour of overlap between those 2 classes. And so we start with the young students, and then we bring in the older students for a half-hour overlap so that they play together, they learn from each other, and then the younger students leave and the older students have their class, but there still is this time where they're making music together at various levels so that the older students are helping the younger students. And I'm talking about older and younger, but this is like 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds, right? So it's at each of these different levels of our program, we have this little pockets of mentorship that go through.
Even for us as well, the student mentorship piece is important. And as Allison mentioned, that it sort of happens naturally within a group setting. But one of the things that's important for us is professional development for our teachers, to understand what music mentorship really is, and what that means for us. And so being able to discern and be aware of what our students are going through. A lot of our students, it's like they have more issues than any adult in the world. They've got swimming, they've got music, they're some of the busiest people on the face of the planet, and they too get overwhelmed, and whether it would be with schoolwork or how things are happening at the home. Maybe parents are going through a difficult time, separation, and brings all kinds of anxiety. And it's important for our teachers to be able to walk our students. We're not social workers, and there's that fine line that we definitely draw. But being able to discern and walk our students through whatever it is that they need to be able to go through or walk through with them, using music as that tool. For our teachers, being able to mentor the students is very important for us.
And I think, Chord, you said something kind of very, very important there of kind of the teachers in the program and the administrators of the program not being social workers, but we do play a very important role just by being these positive forces within the lab, and just kind of it comes back into mentorship as the students that we kind of bring in to mentor the classes are the students that we chose who are positive role models. And it's not that we're going in and we're diagnosing and we're offering solutions to problems that the students are having, because that's not our place to do so. But I mean, there's something very important to be said about providing these very kind of positive adult figures, or kind of older, still kind of teen figures, that the students can look up to and kind of follow in that path.
Absolutely.
Thank you all so much. We have I know we're short on time. I know a conversation like this, we can obviously take a lot of time. There's so much ground to cover, but I did want to ask a question from one of our attendees around maybe some of you can speak briefly. I know that YouthREX has been working with both Regent Park and also with OrKidstra. How do you assess the impact of your programs? So maybe you can speak briefly to like what you look for in terms of measures, or how you assess your outcomes or your impacts. Who would like to start with that?
It's a tricky question. Everyone's like, yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons that YouthREX is such a great resource to us, is because it's you can measure how many students you see and how many music lessons you deliver, and that tells such a small sliver of the story of what we know is actually happening from the conversations we're having with families and students, right? Like it's a really hard thing to put numbers on because of the richness of these individual experiences. I mean, we definitely look at things like attendance. We look at engagement in terms of a student like Tomas, who was in an ensemble and then in a private lesson and was a camp counselor and was a hallway monitor. Like you see sort of, especially as students grow with us, the number of touch points throughout the week and just the types of opportunities that they're taking. So those are some good indicators for us. We also track where our students go after they graduate with us and things like that. But I think none of those pieces alone really captures the whole experience of what is happening. So I'm interested to hear what others have to say on that too.
Go ahead, Greg.
Allison, sorry, yeah, Allison, I second that, because for us being a very new program, it has been very difficult to quantify, you know, that particular piece. I mean, we do surveys with the parents, you know, and you know, if obviously we have students who are staying for longer than, you know, a semester or longer than a year, then, you know, that's also a good thing. But, you know, it's very, even for me, being the new kid on the block, if you will, you know, what are some of the ways that we'd be able to quantify, you know, the success of the program?
Yeah, well, so I mean, I can speak from my experience with working with YouthREX, because this is the question that we brought to YouthREX that they helped answer. And yes, it is absolutely terrifying to try to quantify, you know, how music helps a child, because how can you put a number to that? But then again, grants ask you to put numbers to that, and so you are forced to find a way to somehow represent the data, right? So we do track a couple of things. We track throughout the year, we track attendance for all of our classes. We track practice minutes for all of our students to see if there's a growth in practice, and also kind of as a nice social pressure to keep those practice habits very healthy. We track behavior throughout our program, just as a very simple kind of students who are exceptionally great in any particular class get a little tick, and students who are particularly disruptive that day kind of get a -1, so we can provide a touch point kind of across the whole program. And then at the end of the year, we run a survey. So it's our big end of year survey, and we have a kind of triangulated data point. And so it's all trying to measure student growth. And so we have a paper survey for the students. We have a simplified paper version for the teachers of those students, and we also hold a focus group with with a select group of the parents. And all of those questions look at a couple of different things. We look at, first of all, kind of the musicianship, how they've grown in their musicianship, but also community engagement and positive relationships and creative activities. And there's a couple more things, but all the questions that we ask are, since starting at OrKidstra, do you feel that you have developed more positive relationships? Do you feel that you have built lasting friendships? Do you feel that you are doing better in school, that you are engaged in more creative activities? Are you practicing more? But the language of all of what we're doing, or the language of what we're asking, is kind of reflective. Think back as to where you were in September, and think back to where you are now. Like, what change do you see? And I mean, and it's, we generally say we see kind of relative success. We mark everything on a 5-point scale, and, you know, say rank 1 to 5, how much have you grown? And then we have decided that anything kind of an average of 3 or higher marks growth. And so we say, you know, 80% of our students or 90% of our students marked a score of 3 or higher on, I believe I'm doing better in school since starting at OrKidstra, so that we can try to say that OrKidstra is probably helping these students do better in school. Right? That's kind of that's the short version of what we have developed with the help of YouthREX.
Yeah, go ahead, Vanessa, please.
One final thing I was going to say was, in terms of capturing story, that's a really big part of what we're doing at Regent Parks. So we're trying to not only make it so that we're seeing, you know, growth and progress, but we want them to be able to share something about themselves. So we do incorporate storytelling as a big part of our evaluations at this time. So that's a really helpful thing in order for us to really grab a good picture and be able to share that with our partners and donors.
Thank you, and thank you all for sharing the story of the work that you're doing with all of our attendees today, with all of us. We received a comment from an attendee that suggested that this webinar is doing a really good job of community building in and of itself among folks who are working with people and working in different communities in different ways. So thank you all for being part of this community and for sharing space with us and sharing your stories. I do want to give you all a chance if you have a final thought, or if anyone has anything else they want to add before we wrap up for today.
I'll just say that you know, the one of the root words, of course, in community is unity. And as we keep reminding our students and parents, is that that goal is what's really going to help all of us, for us to be unified in purpose and to be unified in our motivation. And as we do that, we're able to build programs based on our local regions, where we're coming from, and the types of skill sets that we can bring to the table. But I just believe that this is a time in history that we'll mark as where community music, as particularly, is going to it's going to save the world. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's very important. Very, very important. I'm so glad to hear the important work that's happening on each of the organizations represented today. Good on you.
Yes, thank you all so much for sharing this space with us. For folks who have questions that we didn't get to, we will make sure to send out resources and make sure you have access to the slide deck, which has links to all of these fantastic programs. As I mentioned, a recording of this session will be available on YouthREX's Knowledge Hub, which I encourage you all to check out. There's lots of resources that can support your work with young people. So thank you all so much again. We look forward to our next webinar conversation. Most likely will be in the new year. So wishing everyone a happy holiday season, and thank you again for joining us today. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.